Hey, I just made the story about the go-go boots funny and touching and memorable. Not everything from the 60s was fun. And I came to the part where I did the research for history. And I'm not going to talk about all the history and all that timeline stuff. And I'm only going to talk about the things that, as a younger person, that impacted me either in my family, the community, or the world at large that I remember having experiences with. You know. So the first thing is in 1960, John F. Kennedy was elected, which was a shocker. And I remember my family in the kitchen at my grandmother's house playing pinochle. They played pinochle almost every Sunday and ate these disgusting little fish called smelts. And they smelled. Anyway, the way that I could get in the kitchen was maybe being a soda or beer runner. And it was the coolest thing. I always wanted to learn how to play pinochle just 'cause I wanted to fit in with the grown-ups. Anyway, they're in there talking and shouting was what they did. My father cheated. God bless his soul. If he was running Diamond's trump, he'd go like this, and he'd knock his heart if his trump was hearts, and Gene, stop it. It was like a family comedy, almost like Archie Bunker kind of thing. They hated each other, but they loved to hate. I don't know, in the conversation, all that little kerfluffle. Anyway, it was nice. Now, one Sunday when Kennedy got elected, it was like, whoa, my grandmother was on fire. She was, always against the Kennedys, and she knew the back history of the father, and blah, 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 and those awful people, hypocrites, and, and obviously she didn't vote for him. I don't know why. Anyhow, so that was the first thing that I remember historically that affected our family, like in a personal, like they're really upset about it kind of way. And so the next thing that I remember in the family was my mom was upset when Marilyn Monroe died. And I think maybe my mom kind of admired her because she came up in that generation when Marilyn Monroe was starting to become important and be in movies and, that whole thing. So it was sort of like the Angelina Jolie of the day. She was in the headlines, she was big stuff, and it was something that my mom grieved about. She was upset about it. I don't know if she talked about it at Pinochle, but I just remember my mom taking it hard and going, do you think she really killed herself? I just remember that. And, years later, I'm watching a documentary and I flash back on, wow, it was doubtful. Who knows? And to think that, somebody really important might have been involved was like, oh no. That was the generation where they shut it down. Shut it down. Don't talk about it. Anyway, now they talk about it all the time because everybody who could be affected by that is gone, including the second gunman on the hill. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that affected my mom. And I think it kind of made her a little jaded. Now, I can't guarantee exactly what my mom was feeling, but I just remember her talking about it. Okay, so the next thing, of course, is the stuff that happened when Kennedy died. And I talked about how that impacted me, but it impacted my family. And even though my grandmother was against the Kennedys, she still grieved because he was still the president. Even though, this I respected about my grandmother, even though he wasn't in line with what she thought should happen, she still respected the office, which is something I don't see happening in our generation. They don't respect the office at all. They don't. And I can just remember when somebody was giving a speech, somebody standing behind him and ripping up a paper. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I cried when that happened because it just showed disrespect for the office of the entire United States. And if you think the other countries weren't watching, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. So, okay, other history things that happened. Let's see. 1964, 6 months after he's in the office, he decides he's going to escalate the Vietnam War. We all know where that went. We all know the studies of it now. But it affected me because every night on television, it would come across how many men died, how many men died, how many men died. And there would be current events at school. We had to cover all that. Back then, you had to cut out the newspaper and put it on a piece of paper and carry it in and do current events during civics. I don't even think they teach civics anymore. Matter of fact, I think that they don't. And then let's see what else affected. Okay, this one's kind of a choker. In 1968, I think I was upset about Kennedy, but this one, I was older and I was able to understand the importance of it. In 1968, they shot Martin Luther King. Doggone it. Only the good die young. And then a few months later, they shot JFK's little brother, Bobby. Yeah. We don't know who they are. It's a mystery, and it's not a funny mystery. And everybody's upset about this and that today. And look at back then, right? That's my perspective. I kind of try to look at the whole thing. And there was a song out by Dion called Abraham, Martin, and John. And it was a tribute to Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, John Kennedy, and then at the end they add in Bobby. And it says, has anybody here seen my old friend John? And look it up. Now, I can't put it on here. I don't know. And I'm not going to try to sing it because it's real low key and it's a guy's voice and it's not, but it's a tearjerker. Anyway, those are some of the things that happened. Besides, there was one more thing that happened in the 60s that impacted me and impacted all the boys in our class because they all wanted to be astronauts after this, the space race. And apparently, Russia and the United States were in a war, like a political Cold War, to see who could get to the moon first and who could have the first astronaut. And of course, Russia was winning. And the one guy that was the first guy to do whatever, I couldn't quote what it was, but he was Russian. And American pride, well, we just have to da-da-da. And because Kennedy always wanted us to go to outer space. Well, how did this affect me? Every boy in the class, every school project we had to do had something to do with outer space. So, we had to learn the planets, of course, that's part of science, but we had to have all these drawings of rockets all over the room. And, that was my knowledge of history back then. Okay, so that's my history stuff that I remember that impacted me. There was a lot more stuff that happened back then, but those are the things that directly impacted me. And I'm sorry for the tears, but I don't think they should have killed him or any of them. Just saying. All right. So I don't think there's much funny about this one. I love you guys, and I hope you get it. All right, I'll talk to you. I think I'm going to make one more tonight, and then I'm going to get ready for the play.